Well, PJ Duke paid the Cael tax, and look at the turnaround he had. So is the same thing set up for Marcus Blaze at NCAAs?
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Help me welcome a very special guest. Truly honored, truly privileged to have Justin Basch, host of the Basch Mania podcast, with his co-host Matt Scouts Willie Saylor, joining me here to talk all things Penn State wrestling. As no season awards for the Nittany Lions. They go undefeated, they flatten Ohio State, they set records at the Big Ten tournament, yet no hardware. I know that doesn't matter to them, but I think it matters for the conversation. We're still going to debate Rocco Welsh versus Max McEnelly because I don't think people are satisfied. A number of people aren't satisfied with the outcome. Was it a takedown? Was it not? We're going to get Justin's expert opinion there, starting with PJ Duke, because not only did PJ Duke just win, but it looked like he kind of returned to, I mean, I guess he never really went away from it against other wrestlers, but not as aggressive against Antrell Taylor the first time around. And I'm wondering if this exact same setup almost is waiting for Marcus Blaze, who now pays the metaphorical Cael tax.
Yep.
And PJ Duke looks like the classic version of PJ Duke Marcus Blaze needed with Jax Forrest and potentially Ben Davino over at NCAAs.
Yeah, and there's a lot of call them casual fans that sometimes say, here the Cael tax, and what is the Cael tax? And I've had a couple people ask me, and I said the best way that I can explain this Cael tax is that what the Penn State coaches do so well year after year is when a guy takes a loss, they game plan so well for that next time around. They are some of the best analysts in the sport. And when they analyze a match and what went wrong, they have proven to be so good at knowing what adjustments to make. And coming into NCAAs, I always, I catch flack for picking the Penn State guys because I'm a Penn State guy. But it's like we've seen how these guys show up in March. And a large thing of that is Cael and the coaches and the adjustments they make. So when Antrell when Antrell beats Duke and Duke takes that loss, I'm not surprised that Duke rebounded with a strong win. And if you listen to the post-match, Duke even said, my body feels better. I feel great this time around. Made some obvious adjustments. Didn't want to leave it to chance. Wrestlers themselves aren't going to talk a heck of a lot about stall calls and this and that. They don't want to leave it to that. That's something the fans do. Fans speculate a heck of a lot more about when a stall call should be made, when it shouldn't be made. The wrestlers don't want it to come to that. And so, with the Blaze match, it was kind of interesting because that match was Davino's match to lose back in the duel. Davino gave up that reversal when he could have just let him go and win the match. So it was one of those things where I think Blaze, there's been a lot of criticism on Blaze for having low-scoring matches. And I was talking to a coach yesterday about why do you think that is? And it kind of said, well, a lot of these younger wrestlers especially stay in these low stances, and they're very hard to score on. And so many guys right now are winning big on reattacks. And so what wrestlers don't want to do is make a bad shot, opening the door for a reattack. You look at Blaze and Rocco, and I think that's something both of them, why aren't they taking more shots? Well, I think they don't want to take a bad shot. And when you're wrestling very good guys who have very good reattacks, you want to be careful of that. So I think Blaze is going to have to find that, 2 matches in now, and the Cael tax paid, and those coaches are going to say, here's how to beat Davino. Now, whether or not it can happen, we'll find out, next weekend. But I think those are some of the best coaches in the sport, if not the best, at taking a loss and turning it around and saying, here's how to get the W. So, and I don't know if you caught it, Zach, but when I was looking at the content afterwards, Marcus did not seem well. He didn't seem happy. And a lot of these guys take a loss and it doesn't eat at them too much. Marcus, you can see visibly upset on the podium.
So you think there's an emotional factor here, something else beyond what we expect?
I do. I think if you look him at his podium, his head was down. He was upset in the photo I saw. When Rocco took the team selfie on the Big Ten account, I think it was, Marcus's head was down. He was upset. I think this was like eye-opening for Marcus. And I think he's going to, again, I understand not wanting to take too many bad shots because you don't want to open up for a reattack, but I think he's going to have to find that balance of not taking a bad shot, but got to get to your offense more if you want to beat a guy like Davino, who's incredible.
And there's so many layers to this, of the nuances of the Cael tax, right? And there's kind of the understanding that, well, Penn State uses the dual meets as just more practice. Well, we know that, but how do they use it as more practice? Well, they go into it, kind of exhausted, right? The idea that they train through. So PJ Duke says, hey, his body's feeling great. Well, yeah, because you're now amped up for the postseason, whereas you probably went into that Nebraska dual meet where Antrell Taylor was at close to 100%, if not 100 or over, and you were probably coming in at 75% or away. The PJ Duke 75% is not, is somebody else's 100%, which is why he still wins. But when it comes to Antrell Taylor, so it was a massive jump to not just a takedown and sudden victory, a major decision in PJ Duke. The Antrell Taylor does not look like he's a national title contender and a defending NCAA champ. He looks like just like everybody else. And the thing with Blaze, though, is PJ Duke is, I think right now, the equivalent of what Jax Forrest is to 133, where people assume that, okay, he's going to run this weight class. Yes, Marcus Blaze is a contender. Yes, now Ben Davino is truly a proven contender. They're all three in that same category. But I look at 157 and I say, well, PJ Duke's in that category by himself. And then it's Antrell Taylor, it's Brandon Cannon once he's healthy again, and everybody else. So Jax Forrest and PJ Duke are kind of that equivalent across weight classes, and Blaze and Davino are chasing after Forrest at the moment, and everybody else in 157 is chasing after Duke.
Yeah, and I also think, too, with Duke, I think Willie kind of alluded to it on our show, I think, yesterday, that he didn't say it this way, but I think the tournament favors Duke in that match because Duke cuts a lot of weight. So if you get Duke at night versus right off the scale, that's huge. And that's like, you're talking about a duel, you're wrestling right off the scale. When you're talking a tournament, and, if they wrestle, like Willie said on this morning show, like if I was just being a Husker homer, I want Antrell to face Duke first thing in the morning, not at night, because it is such a cut. And when you give Duke that, the semis and finals being at night are going to likely favor Duke. So I think that's a huge aspect for Duke. And like you said, 133, we're also spoiled. You and I specifically, both as Penn State fans, we're spoiled with the success that Penn State has. And as college wrestling fans, we're spoiled because there are guys like Jax Forrest who are so damn fun to watch. I caught flack a couple months ago for saying the Oklahoma State-Iowa State duel wasn't that exciting. And it wasn't just that there were some low-scoring matchups. It was that it was more because it was lopsided. But part of why is it not that exciting? Because we're blessed with seeing somebody like Jax Forrest go out and, like a hungry dog on a bone, chase it. And it's like, if Blaze, Davino too, like if Blaze or Davino want to compete with Jax and Seidel and the rest of the 133 guys, they're going to have to get that explosive offense going. And it's going to be interesting to watch them at the tournament when they got to do it multiple times. They're going to have no choice. When Willie and I were previewing Big Tens, he was saying, I hope Antrell gets an early takedown because that's going to, or Duke, and I said, or Duke gets an early takedown. It's going to force the other to get to their offense. It's going to be very interesting if you look at like a Blaze Forrest match. If Forrest goes out and get a takedown, Blaze isn't going to have the opportunity to wrestle that low scoring match. I don't hate some of these low scoring matchups as much as others because I understand how good their defense is. Rocco, Angelo, Davino, Blaze, these guys, their defense is incredible.
Stick to what you're better at.
Yeah. But the caveat there is if you're going to wrestle Jax Forrest, if you're going to wrestle Aaron Seidel, who lost to Jax Forrest, but beat him 3-1 in the turnover ratio. So you're going to wrestle these guys, you're going to be forced. And I do think that's going to benefit Blaze. I think if Jax gets an early takedown and Blaze goes down 3-0, 3-1, and Blaze knows he has to get to his offense, I do think that favors Blaze more so than a low-scoring match when he's trying to protect it a little too much.
And that's another portion of the Cael tax, is that this is that teachable moment because Marcus Blaze isn't offensively inept. He can go out and score. He can go toe to toe with somebody who wants to put up points, which is why I'm kind of surprised that Blaze is hesitant to trust his offense more. Again, Davino, I think, has 5 or 6 different shot attempts where he got in on the leg and Marcus Blaze was able to fend it off. And that's impressive too. Great offense, better defense, but you can't, I don't know. I disagree with the idea of taking it all the way to tiebreaker and kind of leaving it up to a 50-50 coin flip at that point.
100%.
So we'll see how it all unfolds from there. When we come back on the podcast, Rocco Welsh is part of this conversation because he had a number of tiebreaker against these elite wrestlers. But hey, he's winning. Should he have won, though, against Max McEnelly? We're going to get Justin's expert opinion coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood Prediction Markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. This episode is brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Did you know you can listen to Locked On Nittany Lions ad-free? As a member of the Everydayer Club, you can do just that. You will also get exclusive access to a members-only Discord server where you can talk all things Penn State sports. Go to lockedonnittanylions.supercast.com or check out the link in the show notes to learn more. It is a takedown in the sport of wrestling. This is my now that I've watched it back.
Yeah.
But then you factor in reaction time, and there you go. And then the clock expires. So zero's on the clock, the independent review, the referees, they all look it over and they agree that, hey, this is not a takedown. It is in this iteration of the rules. Previously, it's definitely a takedown and McEnelly wins, but he also shouldn't be waiting till the final 5 seconds to try to get Rocco Welsh down on the mat.
Yeah. So the first thing I got to contest is me being an expert. I can give you my opinion. I actually had a good friend of mine, Don Bashada, we call him the captain, on our show, not only because he's an attorney, but he's a wrestling diehard. And I kind of went into the conversation like, okay, Don, you're an incredible analyst here. What do you think? And because I agree with you, like, I had people chirping me like, oh, come on, that was a takedown. I'm like, I don't know, sure, it looked like a takedown.
It looks like a takedown, yeah.
When you actually break it down, Don had a great point of like, within the current rule set, it's not a takedown. Should it be? Probably. Yeah, that should be. You should reward. You can't, I think his point was like, he was up in the air with 1 second on the clock, so there was no time for reaction time by the time he hit the mat. So I understand why in this rule set it wasn't a takedown. And yeah, I do think that's a problem that otherwise you're never going to have a score within the final seconds. Because if you're always going to have to account for reaction time, then how do you have a buzzer beater? You got to have a buzzer beater with 5-6 seconds to go instead of 1 or 2.
15 seconds to go.
Yeah. So, it's like Rocco is so damn good, both offensively and defensively. And this is one of those instances where I almost look at it as like, and I'm curious your opinion too. I don't even know if Max is the most offensive wrestler in the weight class, because I might even put Aiden Sinclair a notch
Oh,
above
this is,
him.
yep, blanked on that. Yeah, Aiden
You
Sinclair,
know,
I would say. Yeah.
so you figure at NCAA's, Rocco could, let's say he sees a path like Angelo Ferrari in the quarters, because Angelo might have a low seed.
Yeah.
And then let's say, depending on how the seeds shake out, I think Aiden and Max will likely be the 2-3,
2 and 3.
which will really help Rocco, because if you have to go through both of those guys, it's tough. He's going to have the winner of that. And, it's funny. It's like I had one guy text me like, Rocco's about to pay the Cal tax, sets him up for NCAAs. I'm really curious here, and we're going to find out, is the Cal tax always an official loss? Or is that kind of one of those wins with an asterisk to a degree where it's like, yeah, he got the W, but is that really what you want to leave to that chance at NCAAs? It's like, and going back to what I was saying earlier, I think both Rocco and Angelo and Max, they all love the reattack. And you could see that neither one of those guys want to take a bad shot, because they don't want the other guy to reattack. And, listen, 184, everybody all year has been wanting more offense. Nobody wants Rocco, whether it's a Penn State fan or non-Penn State fan, to win 3 overtime matches to win Big Tens. He won in tiebreakers.
Yeah.
He got the takedown against Brock in sudden victory, and then won in tiebreakers again. Nobody wants that. Not Penn State fans who want Rocco to win with ease, not wrestling fans who just want to tune in for a great match. So it's going to be interesting that, does the Cal tax officially require a loss, or can a scenario like that be that eye-opening experience that it's like, Rocco, for as good as you are, like you got to get to that offense, because he has it in his arsenal. We know it.
Yeah.
We've seen it all year, but you don't want to just rely on his defense. I think his defense is some of the best across all of collegiate wrestling, but against these top guys, you got to get to both defense and offense.
And I never thought of it that way too, that the moment itself is still teachable, because hey, you 3 more seconds on the clock, and that's definitely a takedown. Or you could even maybe even debate when McEnelly has Welsh, and then Welsh picks up that knee in time, but it maybe had the 3 points of contact, and then see that's debatable in itself. That it isn't even him dropping him back to the mat return was insane. I'm surprised Welsh got up like, hey, nothing happened. You just, you just got dropped hard to the mat right there. But even that moment where McEnelly's trying to circle around and Welsh stands up to his feet real quickly, I wonder if that, if you watch it frame by frame again, how close it was just in that instance to get that takedown. Justin, when it comes to Rocco, because these matches really haven't been impressive, and it's almost like a bit of luck here. Okay. Angelo Ferrari, you do win in tiebreaker, not once, but twice. You win in tiebreaker against McEnelly, and when you look at it overall, it's kind of like Davino against Blaze. These matchups, McEnelly's able to get to the leg better than Welsh. Angelo Ferrari is able to get to, surprisingly enough, is able to get to the leg better. I think he got to the leg 2 or 3 different times, and a great offense, but better defense. That's awesome for Welsh, but it does make me question, okay, at what point does this flip? Because it's too many 50-50 instances that break in your favor. And McEnelly saw, okay, when I'm aggressive, I can get a takedown in 10 seconds if I need it. So I imagine his approach is going to be a lot different if they hypothetically meet in an NCAA final.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the same thing can be said. While I think the Penn State coaching staff is the best in the country, bar none, I do think other coaches are very good. And if you're Gopher coaches, you're going to tell Max, okay, this is what we're going to have to do to beat Rocco. This is what you're going to have to do to beat Aiden. All these guys are going to have to make adjustments. And one of the reasons why I think, it's like, it's very easy when you lose. And I've had hundreds of wrestlers on the podcast, and I've come to this consensus that, especially with Penn State, it doesn't take a loss to learn from it. Willie gave an incredible stat yesterday that of all the Penn State stats this year, one of the most absurd stats is that 8 of 10 Penn State starters have 1 loss or less entering NCAAs. That is absurd. And what that means is Penn State has to find teachable moments in the victories. And if you want a teachable moment in a victory to continue to get better, to continue to improve, that's it right there.
Yes.
So I think they got to get to their offense more in a match like that. I think Rocco will come prepared. Willie and I think I said earlier in the year, like whoever wins 184 this year might do it in nothing but overtime matches. And as the year has played out, this was like early on when we were seeing a lot of like 4-1, 3-2 matches, and the rest of the season is continuing to play out. So, listen, I honestly hope whoever wins 184 does it in a dominating fashion, and I hope it's Rocco. But I hope if it's somebody else that, they got to their offense and attaboy, they deserve it. If you can win that 184-pound bracket, you deserve it. There's no fluke, and I hope there's no doubt on who the quote-unquote rightful best wrestler is at that weight come the end of the tournament.
And this is not even just this season. Next year, the year after that, the year after that, because these are the starters, unless against somebody, McEnelly, I could see him bumping up to 97 at some point. I don't see Welsh or Ferrari doing that. I think Ferrari needs to add more strength as it is. He's really tactically sound when it comes to his defense. And I say that with regard to what we've seen over the past, few months, but I don't expect Ferrari or Welsh to bump up, maybe McEnelly, but Sinclair, this 184 class. It might have a different champion all for the next 4 years with these same guys. So whatever happens this year is not indicative of what's going to happen year after year after year. But you mentioned how, hey, Penn State has just one loss. These wrestlers have no losses or one loss, so there's very few moments where they have teachable instances. But that ties into our conversation. Okay, if they have all the bonus rates are 100%, the team was dominant once again, yet they don't come away with any season awards. Ohio State came away with all of them, except PJ Duke got the outstanding wrestler of the tournament. But why no season awards? We're gonna talk about that next year on Locked On Nittany Lions. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. You got big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast battles, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your read. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then apply that profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. You can look at the odds and see which teams are trending. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, it's your style, now with more upside behind it. Head over to FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. FanDuel. Play your game. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. It is time for the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft. You got 18 flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, Cotton Candy. There's something truly for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. I've got my number one overall pick. I'm sure you do too, here for the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft. And I'm going to go with Tropical Burst. Tasty caffeine with island vibes, a delicious combination of pineapple and apricot flavors. You get a juicy, fruit-forward tropical profile. It's sweet, but it's got a light tang. It's smooth. It's rounded. Get a bright and sunny taste with this Tropical Burst flavor. It's an island-style fruit punch vibe. But maybe you have something different in this draft. Cotton Candy, Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow are some of the newest flavors, but what about the classics? Cherry, grape, berry, strawberry banana, Hawaiian breeze. The choice is yours. It's your number one overall choice. 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with 0 sugar, and 5 Hour Energy has a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned. Go check them out over at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Penn State doesn't end up with any season awards. Well, the coaches vote on it. It's voter fatigue. I'm not ultimately sure what went into it, other than Ohio State basically surpassed the bar that it was set at the beginning of the season. That's the only thing that I can say in my mind, that, hey, Ohio State outperformed their expectations that were set at the beginning of the season by everybody else. I think that the voter committee, the coaches, well, we expected Penn State to go 15-0. We expected Penn State to win all the Big Ten dual meets and win decisively. And, well, I guess we'll give somewhat of a mulligan because Ohio State didn't have its full lineup together. So that 36-5 result wasn't necessarily how it would have gone if Penn State had faced Ohio State's best lineup. And then Ohio State they definitively took second. But should that translate to winning all the season awards? And, well, PJ Duke got this one. Yeah, but that's the tournament award.
Yeah.
Davino has one loss. I would have given the Freshman of the Year award to PJ Duke. Mm-hmm. Okay, if we're taking the entire season. Penn State, I know they don't care about this hardware. They care about what's in NCAAs, so it's not going to matter to them in the scheme of things. Is this almost a sympathy award for Ohio State? Because, hey, you did second better than anybody else.
Yeah, so I woke up. This weekend was such a blur covering all the wrestling. And so by the time that the Big Ten was winding down and ACC's is on, I put my kids to bed. I go to sleep. I wake up and I'm like, okay, what did I miss? And I saw somebody tweet like the season awards, Ohio State, Ohio State, Ohio State. And I kind of like wiped my eyes like, what just happened?
Same deal. I couldn't believe when I heard it in real time when we were wrapping up and Penn State hoist the team trophy. And then I hear, hey, Ohio State, Tom Ryan wins coach. I'm like, that can't be right. Are you sure?
Yeah. And so I'll tell you in order how I disagree with them. So I think the least egregious is Mendez. Mendez absolutely worthy of a Wrestler of the Year in the Big Ten Award. I 100% believe that. Mendez is a dog. I think, honestly, Mendez and Messenbrink are neck and neck, and I could honestly make the case for either of them to win Wrestler of the Year. Josh Barr is up there as well. I think Josh Barr's shortened season probably hurts him a little bit.
What happened?
And that, so I think, like, because Josh Barr 100% bonus is incredible. The only thing that kind of hurts that is the shortened season. So if it's between Mendez and Messenbrink, you can make your case for both. And I feel like there's probably some coaches who just had Penn State fatigue, and they're like, let's give it to Mendez.
And Mendez is graduating. Messenbrink will win it next year.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with that. It's the context of all three. And so then you get to the freshman of the year. Now, I've calmed down a little bit on that one because there is one little wrinkle to that. Another coach told me that they anonymously told me they would have probably given the award to Duke over Davino. But before the finals, you have to submit as a team who your candidate is. And Penn State put Blaze in there. They put the undefeated wrestler because then if Blaze undefeated beats Davino, that's more of that makes sense. So I've kind of come back a little bit, knowing Duke at that point. Now, we can talk with the fact that it shouldn't be before the finals, because the finals absolutely factors into how did your freshman season go.
I think it does. That's the whole season. Yep.
So that's where kind of my frustration shifted from, okay, they gave it to Davino over Blaze because it was Davino's match to lose in the duel. Davino avenges the loss and wins the Big Ten title. I'm okay with that when Duke wasn't on the ballot. So that's like, but why not wait until after Big Tens? You got to have some kind of breathing room there, that if somebody does something in the Big Ten finals, that can count towards their season. Yeah. So let's say you give those two to Ohio State. Now you get to Tom Ryan, which is probably my biggest frustration, because this feels like, to me, the Big Ten hooray Tom Ryan for going to national duels, and they poo-pooed on Cael for not going to the national duels. Because I was talking to another coach who they were kind of split. And I didn't even ask them who they voted for, but they were kind of split because you kind of alluded to Ohio State outperformed their expectations to a degree. Now, I don't even know how true that is. Because if you go up
Okay.
and down their lineup, their expectations were pretty good. Ohio State is damn good. Their wrestler of the year, Mendez. Were you not expecting Mendez to get wrestler of the year? Like, Mendez has had an awesome year. But you've also had some other guys in the lineup. Like, did Buzakis is very good. You also wrestled 3 125-pounders half the year. Like, sure, you ended up with the best one. And Buzakis is awesome. But it's like, when you only win one match in a duel, you lose the Big Ten season title, you lose the Big Ten tournament title, giving it to Tom Ryan, when Cael Sanderson, telling somebody that in the season Penn State broke the dual win streak record and set another one, moving it from like 76 or 77 to 86. In that same season, when Penn State did a program best 7 Big Ten champions, the most points at Big Ten since 1995. Is that still not exceeding what your expectation was for Cael for the season? Are you telling me that you expected Penn State to have 8 starters with 1 loss or less heading into NCAAs? By every metric, Cael Sanderson outperformed what the expectations were. Were you telling me going into the season you expected Penn State to have 7 or 8 shutouts? No. These are yeah, there's some cupcakes in the schedule. Sure, every team has that. It's how it shakes out. But by every metric, Penn State still outperformed. And what Cael did this year, I thought was second to none. So that's where it's like, all right, you have the argument for Mendez. All right, I can understand giving it to Davino after avenging the Blaze loss with Duke not on the ballot. But now, really, you're going to give it to Tom Ryan? Great coach. But why are we giving out second place trophies now? It feels to me like it's Penn State fatigue. And the way, right when I was kind of analyzing the awards, I kind of said to myself, well, if you're wondering how the Hodge is going to go, this kind of leads me how people are thinking. The Penn State fatigue. So if I had to bet on the Hodge right now, I'd almost just put your money on Mendez.
Mendez.
Because it's like, if the Penn State fatigue, and if some voters, you're gonna have some people voting for Barr, and that's gonna take votes away from Messenbrink. Couple that in with the fatigue, and it feels like Mendez. By the way, I'm not gonna complain about Mendez winning a Hodge. The dude is he's incredible, and he's everything college wrestling should be. But also, don't be surprised when it happens. Like, well, Messenbrink, 100% bonus. And yeah, I could see 100% bonus rate Messenbrink still losing the Hodge to Mendez, especially after these awards show the Penn State fatigue.
Penn State fatigue. And again, well, Messenbrink's, I think subconsciously, well, this is Mendez's last season. He doesn't get another opportunity. Messenbrink's going to do what he does next year, right? So we'll give it to him. And that's kind of subconsciously factoring into this. Oh, and Penn State didn't go to the national duels. So that is an element of this, that Penn State did not go to the national duels and Ohio State won. So I guess there's that, hey, the national duels don't matter, right? It's a fly-by-night tournament. Here it does. It matters here, apparently.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that it's the Big Ten coaches voting on the Coach of the Year award. Well, of course, these Big Ten coaches, some of whom got shut out by Penn State, some of them who just say, it's always Penn State, next topic. Are you telling me you're surprised that they voted for Tom Ryan over Cael Sanderson? Like, I don't know. The whole thing seems a little wonky to me. And like you said, Penn State, they don't probably care one iota about winning an award such as Coach of the Year. Cael has won many Coach of the Year awards. If you were to text him right now and ask him how many times you won Coach of the Year, I can guarantee you he would not know. But still, as a fan, as a supporter of the program, you want to see somebody who has had success properly get the recognition for said success.
Yeah, and you bring up an excellent point that, okay, Ohio State maybe shattered its expectations or surpassed them to some extent. Penn State really did, because unless you were anticipating 8 Big Ten finalists, 7 champions, and extending the dual meet win streak the way that they did, when you factor all that in, yeah, there's the component of, okay, this really was the best coach team out there. So why doesn't it reflect in the awards? But that's where we will put a lid on this conversation, and it was an incredible one at that. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. As always, he is Justin Basch, host of the Bashomania podcast with Matt Scouts, Willie Saylor. Links to his work will be down in the description. I highly encourage you to go check him out if you haven't already. I know avid wrestling fans, Justin, are probably familiar with you, so this is you're no stranger to the podcast, I imagine, in some capacity. But thank you for the time. Really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone for checking out this podcast. Justin, appreciate the time. Can't wait to have you back on if you are free in the not too distant future.
I'm always down. Always down.